Hi everyone, it's me, Tim, and today I want to answer another question, this time from Bite Your Own Teeth 2100. He asks, Tim, are there any cases where you've embraced unexpected systemic reactions, or when has a bug become a feature? Oh yes. Many times. I actually love when that happens. First, let me define some stuff, and then I'll talk about some examples from my own games where this has happened. And then I'll talk about why I like it so much. That's a good question, because it got me all going. First of all, when something is defined as systemic, what that means is it's been, or at least this is how I use it, it's been coded for. I use this as opposed to something that's been scripted to be a unique case on something. There's reasons to use both of these, but whenever possible, I prefer to go systemic rather than scripts for a whole host of reasons. Ironically, the biggest of which is it cuts down on bugs. I say ironic because my games have had a lot of bugs in it. I often wonder what that was for. I don't think any of us were really bad game developers. I think it really boils down to we tried to put too much stuff in, both mechanics and content, with too few people to do it and too little time at the end to bug fix. But that's a whole other video. Anyway, so systemic means you're handling in code rather than scripts. And I'll give an example of where that's really appropriate. Let's say you're going to have quest items in your game, and you've decided you want a couple special rules for quest items. Let's say you don't want quest items to be something the player can accidentally drop. Yes, you could put this in by making a no drop script, which you can attach to any item, and then when someone attempts to drop it, that script fires and goes, nope, this is not allowed, and it doesn't allow it. I don't like that. I don't like that for a lot of reasons. Any quest item that's put in the game that people forget to put that script on, bug. If you decide later that when you can't drop something, you want a special message to pop up, now you got to put that in that script. If the script is a separate copy on all of them, I'm assuming it's not, but If you also later decide, oh, I don't want it to be dropped or sold, now you have to make a new script and attach it to that object for overriding selling. Then maybe you're like, wait, quest items shouldn't have weight either. You go back to every item and you actually zero out the weight. I don't like any of this. The biggest reason I don't like this is when you're making a game, you often make decisions later after content has been made, and you want to make sure that your decision propagates to all the existing content that's already been put in. So the way I would handle a quest item is simply have a flag that you put on an item. This is a quest item. The designer puts it in when they make the item. This is a quest item, I'm done. The code is what handles it. The code says, oh, when I'm adding up all the weight in your inventory, I skip quest items. Boom, now they don't have weight. Oh, when I'm going to sell an item, or if an item's being dropped, I check the quest flag. Boom, now you can make it so that in the actual code to do those things, you make it impossible for a quest item to be sold or dropped. Trivial to make a little UI pop up or a message to appear somewhere. If you decide later you don't even want quest items to appear in your inventory, when you pick them up, they show up as an icon on the quest log. Boom, easy to do. You've got the quest item flag, you can just check it. So that's an example of doing something systemically. You put in rules to handle that item or situation in the code, and then you move on. What I love about this question is once you have a lot of those rules, they will start interacting with each other in unpredicted ways. And I think it's funny when that happens. And let me walk through some that actually happened. The first one, and I think the funniest one, happened in Fallout, where we had rules for stealing that included pickpocketing, that we had it put in to intend for you to take things out of someone's inventory. You were stealing from them. I just reused a UI we already had for, I think it was for bartering. I just reused that UI. And when you took something, I checked to see if someone noticed. Well, QA discovered, because it was barter, it could go either direction. You could put something in someone's inventory. And I don't know if I thought of that. I don't think I did. But if I had, it would be like, okay, why would I want to give someone some money? Why would I want to give someone a gun? I don't know. Maybe a quest designer will use that to plant evidence on people. But our QA people were both clever and cruel. What they used it for was placing lit dynamite or already ticking grenades into NPCs' inventories and then running away. In fact, they made a game of it. In Shady Sands, there were kids, I think they did it on the kids, that would walk around. They just run around playing in the background. QA made a game where they would put grenades in those kids' inventory using pickpocket. And then they scored points when the grenade went off of how many other kids were nearby. Can't say I approve of that use, but no one anticipated that. To the point where once we saw that in Fallout 1, it became a quest solution in Fallout 2 because there was someone you had to kill. Well, it was one option for the quest is to kill someone. And the way you could do it was you could, I think his kid was playing out front, you could plant a grenade or dynamite on the kid and then say, hey, I think your father wants you. There was actually a dialogue option to tell him, your dad wants you, and he'd run in next to his dad. Boom. In Arcanum, one of the things that we didn't even discover, not me, not our external QA group, not our internal QA group, was, and this is something I read, I want to say years later, if you're traveling in the world map in Arcanum between 2 points, I allowed it that you could click and fall out of the world map, and it would determine what sector you were in, and generate that sector if it needed to, and plop you in. We had procedural terrain generation. I did a video about it. It wasn't hard. I have discovered that people were using that to get into areas they weren't supposed to be able to get into. For example, people who couldn't get into Tula, especially if they were tech, would just travel from one side of the world map to the other side of the world map across Tula, the city, and when they were over that sector, they'd drop in. Maybe they were outside the walls, they'd just do it again. Sometimes they would fall in and they'd be in a place that wasn't legal. They'd be in like a place with no path mesh. They just do it again. Eventually they'd get inside the city. Super clever. We never thought anybody would do anything like that. I do know some people tried to do it to get to, there was a random encounter that, I don't remember who put this in, Leonard or Chad. It was a walled area with a chest inside. And I don't think there's any way in that walled area. Well, people did that trick to get in there. Clever. The thing that happened in Outer Worlds, I'll do one more example of this, was when you left an instance, a mapped instance, we turned off combat in that map. Arcanum, we didn't do that. We let anything that was angry run for a few more seconds, and if they made it to the map transition, they would pop out and keep attacking you. In Outer Worlds, we just stopped all combat. Well, I've seen people in playthrough videos jump in and out of an instance really fast. They'd step out and then step right back in just to clear that combat flag. And you may go, well, why bother? Why would you do that? Well, I saw people do it in the Edgewater power plant. They wouldn't bother killing any of the automechanicals, and if any of them were chasing them when they left, they'd step outside and then step right back inside. The combat would be cleared, and then they could go use the computer, because you can't use a computer while combat is active. Again, I think that's clever. It is not something we planned on. It's a bunch of systemic rules coming together and having that solution. It technically is a bug, but I don't mind it. Let's call it a feature. This is why I actually talk a lot about why I prefer fun over balance. And if I were to make a true balance pass, I probably would take all that stuff out because they weren't planned for. We didn't plan for you to be able to place grenades in people or drop out of the world map into places we didn't want you to get into, or clear the combat flag just so you could jump back in and do something that the combat flag was preventing you from doing. But I like that people found that. It's cool. They discovered it on their own, so let them do it. That's my take on it. It's also why I think of games, and I often refer to them this way, as toys. More than challenges or simulations or story vehicles. Games can be all that, but what I view games as are toys. And I think you should play with them. And if this is how you like to do that, rock on. So to sum up, yes, bugs become features when they're unplanned, discoverable, and fun. And I have nothing against it, and I think it's cool that people discover these. I even like it better when they post videos, which we would watch, and we'd be like, it's like speed runs. We'd watch it and be like, I had no idea people could do that. It's just fun. So have fun with it. You have my blessing.